I absolutely love air dry clay projects, and there are so many sculptures and ideas you can make from air dry clay. Today's video is an air dry clay bird sculpture, and I'm going to make this sculpture into a table lamp. Perfect for my home decor using these simple materials. Wire, tin foil and some air dry clay. That's all you need to begin. I'll also take a chunk of wood for the base of my lamp, and to give some stability to the sculpture. You may think you don't have any craft wire, but can you get hold of some wire coat hangers? I find these really great to work with. If you have some thinner craft wire like this, it also works really well. Take a double strand and twist it together like this. Then you'll have yourself some really strong armature wire that is really easy to manipulate and work with. I found myself a picture of the type of bird I'd like to create, and so I keep this in front of me as a reference point while I'm working. I've started off by bending the wire by hand. This first 2 or 3 inches of wire is what will be inserted into our wooden block. Then I will create the length of the bird's legs and then turn this into the body, and you'll see the bird shape start to come together, albeit very loosely at this stage. This wire is really quite firm, and so I sometimes need the use of my pliers. You can create any sculpture shape you wish like this and get it ready to cover in air dry clay. Here we have my side profile of the bird with the leg and then part of the body and the tail. I've repeated that with the second wire, but I have the profile going in the opposite direction, as you can see here. The wire gives the sculpture an internal structure, and then I use scrunched up tin foil to bulk out the structure. Form a ball, but just don't scrunch that tin foil too tight. Then gradually I'm going to fill this space in the middle with some tin foil. At this stage I've taken a lump of plasticine to stabilise the legs. At this stage you can also take some thin wire and start to create the round of the body by wrapping thin wire around the bird and also securing some areas like the base of the tail. This stage can be a little bit fiddly, so just persevere and hopefully you'll get there. If you are struggling, maybe ask another pair of hands just to give you a little hand for a moment. Then keep adding in that tin foil. I have lots of air dry clay projects over here on Red Rocking Bird, so please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And please do leave a comment below. I'd like my bird to be a bit fuller here, so I'm adding a bit of tin foil in this way. And this is how you can build up your sculpture ready for the air dry clay. Secure in place with tin foil strips or some wire. I think this bird sculpture is a really good beginner project because birds come in all different shapes and sizes, and it really doesn't have to be perfect, and you can do an abstract bird as well. The beauty of being creative is absolutely that. You're being creative and you can create exactly what you want. So it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. It's your creation, and just enjoy it and enjoy the process and learn something along the way. And then with time you will be able to create hopefully absolutely anything you desire. I'm really happy that the shape of my bird is coming together nicely, and we will soon be ready for covering it with air dry clay. The tin foil and the wire really keep the sculpture nice and light. We've got a log burner and I'm always out collecting logs. I've just found this one in my outhouse and I think it's perfect for the little bird to stand on. I just washed it and soaked it in a solution so that it's ready to bring into my home. You can always do this stage at the beginning if you wish and add the wire in and then add the tin foil and everything. But I like to complete the shape and size of the bird and then match it to my block underneath. So that's why I've done it in this way. I'm just going to clip a little bit of wire off both ends so that it fully presses in, but this is basically what it will look like. I will add a little bit of glue to make sure these are secure. Any strong super glue will do the job. I've put a list in the description below of some items you can use for the whole of this project. So here I have the basic shape of my sculpture, ready to add some air dry clay. If you'd like to make yours into a lamp like I do, then you need somewhere for the bulb, and so I'm having it where it looks like the bird is holding onto the wire within the beak. I need to therefore ensure that the beak is strong enough to hold this. I'm taking some of the twisted wire and forming it into a beak shape. Insert this in at the beak and then I will repeat and do a second one so that he has an open beak. Take some wire to make sure this fits and also able to hold the weight. This is good, so I can take some super glue again and make sure that this wire is secure and in place. And now the bit we've all been waiting for, sculpting with the air dry clay. Out of the packet, your fresh clay should be nice and soft and squidgy. For a piece this size, I like to take small sections and work with it like this, squashing it onto your sculpture. Where the clay joins each other, just blend and smooth and make it back into one piece again. I find working with air dry clay like this is so therapeutic and so much fun, so really do enjoy yourself. Gradually build up your sculpture like this. If you wish, you can go much thicker with the clay, I'd say up to about 1 centimetre in thickness. As air dry clay dries, the moisture evaporates, therefore it will shrink, so you will see some shrinkage, which means there will be some small cracks forming. Here I've sculpted a basic tail shape and then I'd like to add in some detail. I did a video all about different clay tools, so you might like to go back and see this. It's all about using what you have in the home and making some of your own tools. So here I'm giving the tail just a bit of feather detail. Giving just a little bit of detail at this stage and then continuing with the air dry clay to build up the air dry clay sculpture. Is there a different kind of sculpture you'd like to create or you'd like to make into a lamp? Please do comment below, I'd love to hear your suggestions. Thank you so much to all those that have shown their support and bought me a coffee. If you'd like to do the same, you can see the link in the description below. I'm always grateful for every coffee and every one of you that subscribes and leaves a comment. As you blend the clay in, if you blend and come through to the tinfoil or the wire, just add a little bit of clay on top of this until all the wire and the tinfoil disappears. As I say, you can go much thicker with the clay if you wish. You can really see the birds start to form. Don't forget to turn your piece to every angle to make sure that all of it is nicely covered. I have to pop out now and I can't complete my sculpture in one go, and you don't have to. Here I have quite a damp cotton cloth and I'm wrapping this over the top of my clay. I'm taking a bag and making sure this is as airtight as it can be. This will really help to keep your air dry clay moist till you're ready to come and work on it again. Leave in a cool area away from any drafts and any heat source. A few hours later I've come back to it and I can take off the bags and the cloth and continue working on my project. As you can see, it's still as soft as it was before. When you're not using your air dry clay out of the packet, always make sure this is nice and airtight as well, otherwise it will dry out. I have done a video on how to recycle your air dry clay, so you might like to see this too. Projects that didn't turn out quite as I wanted to, I've managed to reuse the clay. The damp cloth also comes in really handy while working on the clay, just to keep it soft before you've added all the detail in. Here you can see I'm covering the beak wire with some thin air dry clay. And again taking another break before adding the detail. I want my bird sculpture to have some wings that protrude out a little, so now I'm going to add these on. When I'm creating my air dry clay pots, I use the score and slip method when I'm adding two slabs together, but with this project I find that the air dry clay slip is not needed and we can smooth and sculpt and push the clay around to make sure that clay adheres to the other clay. Adding slip actually just makes it all a little bit too slippery and we don't want this at this stage. Here you can see the bird's wing developing quite nicely, and I have a simple wooden tool that can just add some shape and some detail. As I always say, our hands are really one of our best tools. The clay is starting to dry up a little, so I can add the cloth on again. or as I'm doing here, I've just got a tiny dot of water on my finger and I'm rubbing this on and loosening it up that way too. I'm repeating the process for a second wing and then adding some detail in for the eye. I've gone a little too high on the eye here, so you can always add some more clay in and repeat the process again till you have it as you'd like it. These little tools that I made are really good for adding lots of fine detail. You can add as much or as little detail as you wish. Or if you're doing an abstract bird, you can keep it smooth. Adding texture actually makes it a little bit easier on yourself, and that means you don't have to get it perfectly smooth, and as we said, there will be some cracks appear and it's a little bit more forgiving if you do have some texture. I want to add in the detail of the bird's feet, and so if you want to add anything to something like some wood, if you add a little bit of moisture first, a little bit of water, and then add in your detail, it should help it adhere to the wood. If you do find that they fall off, you can add some glue and glue them back on. You can paint the wire if you wish, or I'm just smoothing on a little bit of air dry clay to this. I have the bird the way I want it, and so I'm just going to leave it in the air to dry naturally. I've come back to it after 2 days, and as expected, there are some really fine hairline cracks that have appeared, and we can easily fix these, no problem at all. Spray on or dab on a little bit of water onto the cracks. Get some fresh clay and smooth this into the cracks. Once these are all filled, add some detail and leave it to dry once more. For the lamp part of this, you can use part of an existing lamp, but I have access to my dad's supply of all these bits, so I'm able to make the lamp socket with the parts that I have here. Make sure you buy a ready-made one or get someone qualified to help you with this. Or your sculpture can be a sculpture without the light. Testing it out now that it's dry, here's what it looks like. You can varnish it and leave it white if you wish, but I'm choosing to paint mine. I have some acrylic paint here, and you can paint yours absolutely any colour you wish, but I'm going for an antique gold look, so first of all I'm painting it with some black paint. If you add just a little bit of water to your acrylic paint, you'll find that it brushes on a lot more easily and gets into all those nice details. Let it dry and do another coat if you feel you need to. Use a fine brush on some of the smaller details and really get in there and paint it, and it's starting to look lovely already, and as you can see, I've really not used that much acrylic paint. I have a gold acrylic paint here, and I'm going to use the dry brush effect to add some detail and pick out all those details on our bird. I'm adding just a little bit more gold on the tips of the wings and the tips of the tail, and then dry brushing most of the rest, just like this. Once you've finished with the painting, you can add a nice lacquer or a varnish over the top of the whole of the wood and the air dry clay, just to seal it, and then if you do need to clean it, you can wipe it clean with a damp cloth. I showed this to my son at this stage and he really couldn't believe that it's made out of air dry clay, and it really does look like a piece of metal. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out, and it's a lovely piece of home decor made out of our air dry clay. So I hope this has given you some inspiration and you feel like making something like this yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.